I think another really encouraging thing, I mean, hey, we just talked about Skinner. We just heap praise on Perry. Like, the Oilers are winning games, and a lot of these support guys are starting to come out and play a really key role. And another guy who I think is playing some great hockey, and it's timely because he scored that fourth goal the other day, but Troy Stecher and Darnell Nurse seem to be finding a bit of a groove here together. I'm looking at their numbers. They played 191 5v5 minutes together this year. And when they're on the ice, the score is 5-5. They eat some relatively tough matchups, and they find a way to at least saw off. Have you noticed an uptick in Stecher's game here? And does it maybe buy this front office a little bit more time if they can at least sit there and go, okay, we know we need to fill that role eventually, but for now, Stecher's doing a job?
Time. We talked about this last week too, about the fact that Nurse and Stecher are spending time together, right? I think it's 11, 12 games now they played together where they started the game together as a pair. It shuffles around. We know Paul Coffey will do that. He'll get Kulak up there and he shuffles minutes, penalty kills, all that stuff changes things. For Troy Stecher, though, he's a grinder. This is a guy that was an undrafted player, undersized defenseman. He comes in and he grinds himself into a position and finds a way to be, again, similar to Corey Perry, like we talked about before. He molds himself into what he has to be for that respective team and what he's being asked to do. He had an injury, though. We talked to him, Jack Michaels and I had a long conversation with him, and he had a pretty bad injury, a leg, ankle injury or a foot injury, ankle, I believe it was. And it was really giving him a hard time last year when he came over from the Arizona Coyotes. And he played through it. He said maybe a mistake of his was that he played through it because late in your career, you're fighting to stay in the lineup every night. So that's just his mentality, though, which you love. Because I've always said this, if Troy Stecher was, and I hate saying this because I don't like knocking anybody for not being a huge guy, but with his heart, if he was 6'5", 6'4", yeah, like you wouldn't want to play against him. You know what I'm saying? Like he would just be such an overpowering physical presence because he's just got that giant heart. But he makes the best with what he has. He's not afraid to get in there, and he's smart. If you watch him, he started to blend and mix with Darnell Nurse. He talked about playing with Alex Edler early in his career. Two guys that are similar in their play in the sense they're veteran defensemen. They demand a lot of respect because they log a lot of ice time, and respectively on each team up until this year. And last year, we're seeing Nurse starting to get his minutes moved up and down a little bit, maybe to give him a break a bit, maybe to get other guys in the mix. But he was always the top defenseman in ice time on the team. And same with Alex Edler. He was always the top defenseman, ice time on the team. So you have to learn how to play with those guys because they're not going to necessarily change their game for you. You have to kind of mold around their game because this is what they do. And for Darnell Nurse, he said it before, he's got to play his game, right? He's got to play the way he has to play. So if you're his partner, you have to learn how the little intricacies of where you need to be, where he likes to go, how he likes to spin. And I think they're starting to figure that out. Time really does improve defense pairings. It's just simple as that. For Darnell Nurse, Cody Ceci was his longest tenured D partner in his career. And they started to figure it out. And they started to play real solid hockey. And it takes time sometimes for that chemistry. And I think it's even more important chemistry amongst defense partners than it is for forwards because it's you make a mistake, it's glaring because it's right in front of your net. It's right around the defensive zone. You're turning a puck over to high quality players. So you have to be dialed in as to what the other guy is doing. And I think it's repetition, it's time. And we talked about it last week. I think you see Kulak and Emerson starting to really fit into that mold too in the third pairing. It's good to see because it needed to happen because there were times at the start of the year where it didn't look like anybody knew where anybody was going. They were back, but they just weren't doing anything. They weren't really taking the man they needed to take. I think now if you look at the time and space they're taking away around their net in the defensive zone, it's increased immensely. It's been a big change.
What's up, Nation citizens? If you like that video, then you need to be subscribed to the Oilers Nation YouTube. Podcasts, live shows, exclusive interviews, and analysis. Everything you need from your favorite voices at Oilers Nation. And you don't want to miss any of it, so hammer that subscribe button.